Mr. Speaker, I'm sharing my time with the member from Central Newfoundland. Canadians are being sold a shiny Liberal red electric dream, but under the hood, it's full of empty promises and hidden costs. The Liberal government's plan to ban gas-powered vehicles by 2035 might sound bold and exciting, but when you look closer, it's really a blueprint for confusion, higher prices, and broken supply chains. Canadians did not vote for this electric vehicle mandate. It's being dropped on them like a federal hammer. This isn't policy, it's a proclamation. It's a one-size-fits-all order from Ottawa that ignores cost, geography, and common sense. Canadians should not be forced to buy electric vehicles, especially when they have not fixed the infrastructure that needs to support them. The Liberal EV mandate pushes people into expensive new cars without making them affordable. This mandate also fails to consider the everyday Canadians who rely on passenger trucks for their livelihoods, tradespeople, landscapers, and other small business owners whose work depends on their vehicles. These workers can't afford to wait hours to recharge while working on the clock. It ignores the realities that many Canadians face every day when it comes to transportation. The government announced that automakers will have just 12 years to phase out combustion engine cars, trucks, and SUVs. They will set strict annual targets to increase electric vehicle sales, and any automaker that misses these targets will face fines of $20,000 per vehicle. What does that mean for car makers and Canadians? For car makers, it means millions of dollars in penalties, and we all know who will pay for that in the end. Canadian families and consumers will face the higher prices, which they cannot afford. In effect, this is a $20,000 tax on every new internal combustion engine vehicle.
That's right.
It's no wonder the automakers are speaking out against it. Ford Canada's CEO has warned that without enough charging stations and without addressing affordability, many Canadians will be left behind and won't be able to switch to electric vehicles. Stellantis Canada also points out that government support needs to be in line with what the industry can realistically deliver. It's one thing to set targets on paper. It's another thing entirely to make those targets achievable on the ground. Too many times this Liberal government is disconnected from the practical realities of the people it's supposed to serve. This looks like just another example. Right now, about 1 in every 10 new vehicles registered in Canada is electric. That means the Liberals expect electric vehicle sales to double within just 3 years, and they continue growing quickly after that. They have no credible plan whatsoever to do it, and certainly no plan to pay for it. Mr. Speaker, we know that vehicle markets are very different across the country. Quebec, Ontario, and British Columbia meet or exceed the 20% EV sales goal, but many provinces are below the 8%. And now, both Quebec and BC have suspended their subsidies. Canadians shouldn't have to buy vehicles they don't want. According to Statistics Canada, zero-emission vehicles were less than 9% of new vehicle registrations in 2025. A lack of interest isn't the only problem. Charging infrastructure seems to be heavily concentrated in just a few provinces. There are reportedly over 25,500 public charging ports across Canada, but around 85% of those appear to be in only 3 provinces. Many EV owners report that many of those chargers are often too busy, resulting in long wait times. Worse yet, many are inoperative. There is so much work to be done, but this government hasn't done the work to maintain our existing charging infrastructure, much less plan for new, reliable infrastructure. About 80% of electric vehicle charging happens overnight at home, making access to home charging essential for EV ownership. But many Canadians don't have that option. People who live in apartments, condos, or rental buildings often face another challenge. Charging stations are unavailable or even banned by landlords or building regulations. This creates a serious obstacle. How can this Liberal government expect people to switch to electric vehicles if they can't easily charge it where they live? The government also seems to have overlooked another big limitation for the many long-distance commuters. In Cambridge, as in most of the country, we have winter. In places where winter is measured in wind chill and snowbanks, an unreliable battery isn't an inconvenience. It's a safety hazard. Ottawa cannot mandate away Canadian weather. In the coldest months, EV driving range can drop by up to 40%. For those with short commutes, that might be acceptable, but for many others, this becomes impractical at its best. Experts estimate that by 2030, Canada will have to manage over 125,000 metric tons of battery waste. We know that Canada needs a clear and comprehensive plan to recycle these electric vehicle batteries. But once again, the Liberal government has failed to put one forward. Worse yet, this mandate will add hidden costs to every Canadian household. Increased demand for electricity to power all these vehicles will drive up energy prices. But Canada's electricity grid is not ready for the surge. The Canadian Climate Institute says that to meet net zero emissions by 2050, Canada's electricity generation must double or even triple. This means building new power plants, upgrading transmission lines, and spending billions to modernize the grid. That would require a plan and a budget. Jobs are at risk. Canada's automotive industry employs over 500,000 people in factories, parts manufacturing, dealerships, and repair shops. Electric vehicles have fewer parts and require less maintenance, which means fewer jobs for skilled workers and mechanics. Compared to traditional internal combustion vehicles, electric vehicles cost more to buy, which means fewer sales, which means, again, fewer jobs. Without a clear and fair transition plan, thousands of Canadian workers face an uncertain future. Small garages and businesses that rely on gas vehicles are also at risk. Meanwhile, Canadian families are already struggling. Inflation, higher interest rates, and rising housing costs mean they have less money to spend. It's no wonder they don't trust the Liberals' EV mandate. And Canadians aren't buying it, literally. A recent Ipsos poll found that 55% of Canadians disagree with the mandate to make all new car sales electric or zero emission by 2035. Every day, Canadians are opposed to this mandate, and so are the experts. Professor Ross McKittrick at the University of Guelph states this mandate will have sufficiently large negative consequences. What might those consequences be, Mr. Speaker? Madam Speaker, this mandate could, and I quote, effectively destroy the Canadian auto industry and cause widespread economic losses elsewhere. It's incredible. People understand this Liberal government is not acting in their best interests or according to common sense. People understand that they cannot afford what the Liberals are selling. Banning new gas-powered cars will make it harder for families to afford a vehicle. As the supply of new gas-powered vehicles dries up, the used car market could become increasingly volatile, with higher prices at first and far fewer affordable options down the road. It seems this government needs to be reminded that in many parts of this country, including in my riding of Cambridge North Dumfries, cars are a necessity, not a luxury. It's not always possible to take transit, as there are still places where transit is inadequate or non-existent. This Liberal government likes to play a constant game of hide and seek, hiding real solutions while seeking headlines. They hide behind flashy announcements, but fail to deliver the infrastructure and plans Canadians actually need. It's the same Liberal formula: big talk, no delivery, no pipelines, no housing, no budget, just hide and seek with Canadians' hopes and wallets. Madam Speaker, this mandate isn't about helping Canadians. It's about telling them what to do. This Liberal government seems to think it can decide what kind of people or car people can drive, how much they'll pay, and where they're supposed to charge it, whether the infrastructure exists or not. On this side of the House, we believe in something pretty simple: choice. We trust Canadians to decide what works for their lives, not Ottawa. We stand with the drivers, the auto workers, the mechanics, and every Canadian who keeps this country running and just wants a vehicle that fits their needs and their budget. This mandate isn't a roadmap, it's a dead end. Higher prices, fewer jobs, and fewer choices for the people who can least afford it. It's a bit like selling snow shovels in July, completely out of season, and nobody asked for it. Canadians want real solutions that keep our economy moving, our shelves stocked, and their families on the road. When it comes to running a country, common sense works a lot better than a Liberal-issued mandate.
Question de commentaire. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, the member made reference to a number of provinces exceeding the targets. I look at my home province of Manitoba, where the government is hoping to be able to triple its number. In fact, it's come up with a rebate program, which will be expiring in March of 2026. But it seems to me that there's a lot of buy-in in terms of provincial governments, because you're seeing governments at different levels that are actually encouraging their citizenry to purchase EV vehicles. I'm wondering if she can indicate whether or not she is aware of any provincial government that's come out against this policy.
The Honourable Member for Cambridge.
Madam Speaker, I thank the member for his question. And there's a lot of hope, but not real solutions. And what we need to do is focus on listening to the people who are saying that they cannot afford to put a roof over their head, food on the table, and these mandates are going to cost them a lot more in the end. We have here a study in the Canadian Journal of Economics that it will eliminate 38,000 auto sector jobs and cost $138.7 billion, assuming the sector never shuts down. So we're going to end up losing a lot more jobs. So people are going to have less money, and we're going to deal with people in our rural areas who require these vehicles to get to work, to bring their children to school, to pick up their groceries. So we need a lot more than hope. We need real solutions, and that's why banning the gas.
Questions.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for La Pointe de l'Île. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to know what my colleague thinks about greenhouse gas emissions and climate change. Does she think that electric vehicles are better for the environment than gas cars? Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Cambridge.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Again, I thank the member for his question. And I think the matter of what we've heard earlier today, that the emissions would be reduced by 0.08%. The better way to fight our environment and this climate change is if we could actually bring more business to Canada and deal with the matters in Canada where we have better and more stricter environmental regulations. If we can take more away from China, then we will do much better here in Canada.
The Honourable Member for Fort McMurray, Cold Lake.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to thank my colleague from Cambridge for her well-thought and researched speech. One of the things that I found actually really interesting that you were bringing up was the space of innovation in the Canadian context, and I know she's from an Ontario riding, and so I was wondering if she could further explain some of the innovation she's seen and why she thinks it's important to give consumers a choice so that we can get to this as consumers come up with these spaces and the inquiry, rather than removing any possibility of choice, which is what has been suggested by the Liberals, which leaves Canadians to really have a harder time when they're making those decisions for their families when they have a limited budget. Thank you, Madam.
Honourable Member for Cambridge.
Madam Speaker, I thank my colleague for her question. And we have a large rural area as well as an urban area, and the choice is very important because we have a lot of farmers that require their trucks to get around. They don't have the proper infrastructure or the transit to do their business. We have a lot of small business in our automotive industry. It would shut down a lot of businesses. So it's very important that we keep our gas-powered vehicles going. We also have a lot of car shows, and a lot of those people, they can't convert their vehicles over to electric. And there's a lot of pride when they're showing these vehicles. They keep them. They could have been their parents', their grandfather's vehicle. And so we have to respect that. For the many reasons that exist, we have to understand that there is choice of everyone to decide what car they wish to drive.